Polly is working herself to death, but she does take time to answer all of Ben's questions about the attack tomorrow at noon to take over London. And it's lucky they decided not to brainwash him too, and to take the guard off the door, and stand there with their eyes closed and fingers in their ears. Well, no, not that last one, but I wouldn't have been surprised. He gets back and explains what happened, and the doctor says that he believes Ben, even though Sir Charles is a hard man to convince. After much frustration on Ben's part, Sir Charles says that he'll send for the police to raid the warehouse, but the doctor is concerned that it will only deal with one machine when there are so many others likely out there. They need to hit the source of this. But Sir Charles is not prepared to go that far, not without proof. I'm sure the pending robot apocalypse will solve that problem, though. Fortunately, the minister took matters more seriously, and rather than the cops, sent in the army. So they came prepared with the works and soon start checking out the inside of the building. And are they ever surprised to be attacked by the war machine? What's even worse is the fog that it sprays prevents guns from working, so they can't fight back against the machine. And then there are all those brainwashed workers. Well, it does turn out that working people to death doesn't leave the survivors ready to battle hand-to-hand soldiers, but they do have the advantage of sheer numbers, seeing as how the machine isn't too discriminate about who it fires upon. I mean, it's going to kill them sooner or later. What does it really matter? The war machine pursues the survivors outside, and despite Sir Charles' ultimatum that they'll shoot if the bad guys don't surrender, the gun still won't work. Everyone pulls back, save for the doctor, who stands defiantly in front of it as it rolls forward. You know, if Votan does win, do you think he's going to put a plaque here announcing that on this site, nothing happened? When we go into the final episode, Ben tries to get the doctor to fall back, but the doctor is certain of his actions, and yep, the war machine avoids killing him, which is good because Votan needs Doctor Who, so that would ruin the evil plan. Meanwhile, the word is being spread about the war machine threat, told by a recognized real-world BBC reporter to help make it feel even more threatening. Lord knows the war machines can use all the help they can get. The doctor explains to the minister, now that he's arrived, that he guessed the machine would break down because its programming was incomplete. It's too early for the assault. But as the doctor predicts, the others are all being readied. In fact, we see one being tested, although thankfully not slaughtering their own people yet. Ben is naturally worried about Polly, while the doctor is far more concerned about the war machine, figuring out what they're up against. And in the process of that, he drops a TARDIS key for Ben to find. But as far as the test goes...
Continue until ordered.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to do it. There's concern over this back at Votan HQ. Programming error, it seems. And that's some irony for you, isn't it? It seems that the Rogue Computer Rebellion is being hampered by one of their computers that are rebelling going rogue. That's not the only problem. They pull out the Major from the warehouse, and he has no memory of being a servant of mechanized evil, no idea even how he got here, and he definitely has no idea what a war machine even is, although maybe he's already been coached by his lawyer. Well, one poor schmuck does know what a war machine looks like, and he tries to report it, but gets shot for his trouble. This is what you get for trying to be a good citizen. Well, with another on the loose and demonstrable proof traditional weapons won't work, the doctor says what they need to do is paralyze it. And he keeps dismissing Ben's concerns about Polly, who has returned to Votan to submit herself for judgment. Yeah, that computer is a hanging judge if I ever saw one. The doctor's plan involves a powerful magnetic field, creating a box to trap it inside. But they're going to have to rush to put the fourth side in place after it's already entered, and Ben insists that that's a job for him over the doctor himself. And in this corner, weighing in at 485 pounds, the mechanical menace, War Machine number 9. With it contained, the doctor heads over to switch it off, and then reprograms it to go deal with Votan. But Polly might be there, so Ben heads off to see if he can save her before things get ugly. And he's just in the nick of time, because as soon as he drags her out, the war machine rolls in and starts firing, killing Krypton but succeeding in destroying the evil computer for good. Sometimes the solution to computer menace is a really big mallet. The Doctor slips away the very moment that the crisis is over, but as he waits outside the TARDIS, he learns that Dodo isn't coming. She's all better now and has decided to stay, making her the companion who decides to depart off-screen. This is because her contract was only for the first 2 episodes, see, and so this exit, while generally welcomed by the audience, still felt a little unfair. But this means that for the first time, the Doctor is intending to head off without a companion. Oh, I don't know if he's going to get along all by himself. Lucky thing, then, that Ben remembers that key that he picked up. So he and Polly go into the TARDIS to give it to the Doctor and get whisked off to the next adventure. Huzzah! The War Machines is slightly important in introducing new companions Ben and Polly, though not for the departure of Dodo, since it happens off-screen. After much consideration, I'm giving this a stamp of fine. I can't quite push this up to recommended, but it is perfectly serviceable. The story was an initial attempt to ground the show more in reality, which is ironic given that the audience of the time felt that the idea of a computer taking over people's minds was too out there for their suspension of disbelief. And there's also the fact that Votan, if you got annoyed by the fact that I switched between Votan and Votan throughout the episode, well, that's because that's exactly what they do in the show. So after the 4th time they switched and I corrected my pronunciation, I just gave up and stopped caring. Votan can take over minds with a telephone call, remember, and yet for some reason chooses to use this power only on laborers rather than the leaders of London. The plotline involving Computer Day when the networking happens also goes nowhere and makes one question why Votan would attack before that rather than waiting until after when its power would be even greater. But as a proto-unit story, this certainly shows the potential of setting things in the modern times and with greater scope. And Hartnell does a fine job as someone who so clearly grasped the threat that his advice should be heeded. For all my jokes about the War Machines, they're perfectly serviceable as far as a menace goes. Their only real problem is the hammer arms and the show's repeated insistence of showing their power by going through crates and boxes. And first-time Doctor Who director Michael Ferguson tells a great deal with actions rather than words, which is good. The War Machines has some fundamental flaws that needed to be worked out before being ready for filming, but it laid the foundation for the show's future direction. As far as the new companions go, Ben and Polly are an effective double act in this story, and keeping them together a wise move. While Ben would be overshadowed by Jamie in Season 4, the chemistry that the pair had, this sort of mutual attraction and irritation at the same time, is very human and something the series hadn't shown before. It's understandable why, when it was time for Michael Craze to go, that Anneke Wilkes went as well, even though she was offered the chance to remain. But we'll get more into that in our next look at Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones.